Do you see the screen now? Yeah, let me log in. Okay. Okay, let's get started. So today we'll start authoring two. The first topic which we're going to talk about is variables in rapid response. Okay, how do we create variables? What is the use of variables? How do we basically what are custom filters? Okay, how can we add the custom filters to any reports or any workbook, dashboard, or scorecard? Yeah. So, let's see this one. What are how do we add the custom variables? What is the purpose of adding the custom variables? So in this lesson, the objective of this
So,
lesson is
Praful, I can see your team screen only. Is it for me or for everyone?
We can able to see. We can able to see.
I can see the screen now, Sarveshwar.
Yeah,
okay. Just quickly drop off and join.
yeah, okay.
Okay. So in this lesson, we'll see how do we control the data which we create using the variables. Okay. And how can we simplify the process of setting the variables by adding the action buttons. So what are variables? What are action buttons? How do we create it? How do we use them? Simply, okay. Now, what is the overview? What is the business story? You have a worksheet that displays the demand orders. Okay, there's a worksheet which displays the demand orders. You want to simplify the data displayed in that worksheet so that users can focus on the orders they are interested in. Okay, so you want to add some more filters. You will create workbook controls that display only one type of order. Okay, so what do you want to do? You want to filter the worksheet based on the order types. Now, by default, if you go into workbook, okay, do we have any filter which is used for filtering on order types? We don't have a default filter on order types, right? So we can only filter the data based on the item control. We can filter the data based on the parts side, right? But there's no filter on uh, order type. Okay, so we want to use the workbook variable to filter the order types. Okay, now what are workbook variables? As the name suggests, workbook and variables. The workbook means they exist only inside the workbook. Variable means the value can change, and based on the value, what value we provide, what value is provided. Okay, um, they can actually take different values based on what user provides the value. Okay, so workbook variables are the values that can control some aspect of the workbook, and they exist only inside the workbook they are defined in. Means the variables can take different values, and they exist only inside the workbooks. These variables, they can be used for filtering worksheets, And certain types of variables can also be displayed in the toolbar. So they can use for filtering the worksheet, and then you can also use them in the toolbar. In case you copy a worksheet which uses a variable into another workbook, then the copy of the variable in the new workbook is also created automatically. Okay, means if you copy the worksheet which uses a variable, the variable will be automatically copied to the new workbook. Okay,
So, Praful, first, the static filter is specifically once it is created, it can be applicable in any workbook, but here the variables it is specified to particular workbook, right? Understand?
correct.
Okay, got it.
Now, what are the different types of variable? Well, there are four types of variable: list, date, boolean, and filter variable. List variable, it allows you a value of, it allows a, basically from the drop down, you can choose a value. That's a list. This list is defined by the user or the rapid response table. And then we have the date variable, which basically allows you to filter on the date column. Boolean variable, which allows you to toggle the item. So hide, show, control the edit. Okay. And filter variable, what it basically does, it adds one more filter to the workbook or a worksheet. Okay. In case one filter is not enough, you can add one more filter to the workbook or a worksheet.
So,
Okay.
Praful, just one point. I think one dynamic filter is also there, right? So, what is the
Static value
difference?
filter. Correct.
Dynamic filter is also specific to workbook, right?
N-
Uh,
No, dynamic filter is also open filter. It can be used in any workbook. But this
uh,
workbook variable dynamic filter means you will create an expression and use it to filter the data. Okay. But that, that is not available on the toolbar. You cannot um, filter as a data setting.
I got it. Because in the workbook that I am using in the company, it is some dynamic filters there where there are 4 to 5 options. Based on that, you can define. So might be it is the workbook variable. Might be.
The
I
dynamic
will
variable is you've created a filter called, let's say, uh,
using expressions
ABC
we are
code is
using.
equal to A. Okay. So for the part where ABC code is equal to A, okay, that's one dynamic filter. But with variables, you can provide a list where you can say ABC code and that values will be A, B, and C. And user can choose every time whether he wants to see the data for A, B, or C, or more than one of those.
Okay, clear.
Now, filtering using variables. So variables, they're used in column or filter expression to control the record. As I said, because you can control the value, they can be used to control which records are displayed. List and Boolean variables, they are defined using the display value and data value. So for the list variables and the Boolean variables, you have two fields, list display value and data value. What is display value? Display value can be the name of customer. Data value is the customer ID, which system will understand. Okay. So you can say that, okay, if I see this, if I select this value, let's say Walmart, then the data passed to the query is uh, customer 001, something like that. Okay. So display value and data value can be different. Now variables, what is identification? They're always identified by a dollar sign. So if you see a dollar sign before any uh, expression, then you can understand that this is a variable. Okay. Basically, it ensures that the expression functions when the variable has same name as field, column, or a worksheet. Why do we use this dollar sign? Okay, because if you don't use a dollar sign, okay, there might be existing field with the same name. Okay, and rapid response will confuse whether it is a field or the variable of the column ID. Correct. Now you can compare the value in the variable to a constant field or a column, same as the field, right? You can use the value to compare the values, compare the data for a constant, a field, or a column value. Okay. Variables that are displayed on a workbook toolbar appears only in the worksheet they are used in. This is very key information. So if you have created a variable and used a variable in the first worksheet, then that variable will only appear in the first worksheet. It will not appear in later worksheets. It will not be active in the later worksheets. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have any variable which is not displayed on the workbook toolbar are available in the data setting dialog box. So for example, there are some variables which are not directly available on the toolbar. So those variables, okay. So sorry, some variables which are not available in the data settings toolbar, they will always appear in the data setting dialog box. For example, quantity variables, they do not appear, they do not visible, they're not visible in the data settings toolbar. Okay, so they will always appear in the what do you call this, data setting dialog box, right?
Of any set of list which will be available in data setting, which will be available in the toolbar.
Yes, there is. I mean, it's not a set of lists, it's by type. Okay, so quantity type and text type. Okay, string type variables. They are always available in a dialog box only. They cannot be made visible into the toolbar. All others are visible in the
The-
toolbar. Okay. Next. I wanted to show you what rapid responses just started. Anyways, so quantity variables and this text string variables, they are always visible in the workbook toolbars only. They are not visible into the data settings dialog box. Sorry, they are only visible in the data setting dialog box and not in the toolbar. Okay. You can use the workbook variables to filter the worksheets rather than filtering worksheets by typing into the search bar. Why? Because it is more performance optimized, because the variables, because the filtering, worksheet filtering expressions, it takes precedence over the search columns. Okay, so it will improve your performance of the worksheet. Okay, generally how the variables work, same as queries, right? So for example, you want to compare a variable to a string. So there is a planner code field. You want to compare it with the planner variable, or there is a selected date with data type. This is a date variable, the dollar, right? You want to compare it to the due date and see all the records which has the due date less than greater than the selected records, selected date. Similarly, you can create a quantity variable, maximum quantity, and only show the records where the quantity of the record is less than the maximum quantity. Or you want to see the record where the due date is less than the selected date plus n number of days. Okay. Or you want to select the records where the customer is like the customer value which you select. Okay, so these dollars are the values which you provide, and you're comparing them against a field on the table. So is it same, or is it greater, is it less, is it like, okay?
And Praful, we can create these variables in a cross-tab view also. In a worksheet, if it is cross-tab, if I want
Again,
to compare,
variables are workbook variable. So they're defined in a workbook and then can be used in any worksheet, normal cross tab, or in what do you call it, composite, any worksheet. Okay. The variable types will determine the expression where you can use it. Remember, in the queries, we can use only the variables which have the same data type. Same thing applies. So you can use a variable with the same type. For example, you can use a quantity variable with a quantity field. For list variable, the type of variable in the list must match the data type which you want to compare it to. Okay. Now let's take an example. How do we create a variable and how do we use it in a worksheet? So what is the task? To control the data displayed to the users, we can create a variable in the workbook and then use those variable to control the worksheet filtering. Okay, we know that. So first you will define the which data type is displayed. Okay, so there's a workbook called workbook variables. Okay, in that workbook, you want to create one list variable and one date variable. Okay, let me show you first. This is the workbook with workbook variables. Delete it and create a copy, fresh copy. Okay, so here you have a workbook variable. So you have a workbook variables workbook. Now, what you want to do is you have a type column and a date column. So you want to filter the data on order type and due date. So you want to create two variables, one for the time and one for the date, so that you can filter the data as you need. Okay, so this is going to be a list variable and this is going to be a date variable, right? Here I want to see the list of types, right? And here I want to see the list of dates. So how do I create a variable? Go to workbook properties. Because workbook variables, it is defined at a workbook level. In the variables tab, okay, this is where you will define the variable. New, and we will call it
list variable.
first is list variable. Okay, the list variable will be called type, order type, so, or demand type. You can call it demand type. Then what do you want to show it on the toolbar as demand type, the label, right? Right. Now you want to show it on the toolbar, right? So always make sure you check this box. If you want to see it with this label as well, mark this as yes, show me with this label. Okay. Now you you want to if you want to add the fixed values, for example, I want to start with all. Okay, if I choose all and the data selected should be star, means all data should be selected, right? But other than that, you can also from which table will you get all the values? So this table, this worksheet is based on independent demand detail, right? It's based on independent demand table. So I will choose the independent demand table here, and the values of the filter will be selected with, we are putting on type, right? So we will do the order dot type. If you're confused, okay, can also get this information from the column itself. Okay. For example, just give me a moment. If you don't know from which column or which table it is coming, go to the column properties. First, the worksheet is based on the order.type field, and the worksheet is based on independent demand table. Use the same settings in the variable. So I use the independent demand table and the field is order.type. Okay. So this is the value. This is how I will choose. Now by default, initial value is first value. Okay. Now, so that I have created a list variable. Let's create another one, date variable. So date variable, I'll say only show me the minimum date. Minimum date. Again, I want to see it on the toolbar. And initial value I'll set, okay, past. Correct. Now, created the variable. Okay, notice something. I should have seen the variables here, right? Why don't I see the variables yet?
Did not save.
We did save. Remember I said the variables must be used in a worksheet for them to be visible in the worksheet, for them to be usable in the worksheet, right? Did we use that variable yet? No, we have only created the variable. We have not used a variable in the expressions. So we'll go to worksheet properties and add them into the expressions. Okay. So in the filtering expression, I'll say only show me the records, just like the exercises, right? Just like the examples. So only show me the records where the order.type value, where order.type value is like the value provided by the variable, right? Which variable? Demand type variable. And show me the records where the due date is greater than the value provided by the variable minimum date. Is it clear? So only the records of this type and only the records where the date is greater than the min date. Now do we see the variables here?
No.
Is it clear? So now if you select all, of course you will see everything. Let's choose same demand. What happens? Only that variable is visible. Let's use default. So only that data type is visible, right? Okay. Now let's say you only want to see the records of, let's say if I select forecast, then you only want to see the record of 2018. Okay, after 1st of January 2018, you do not intend to see the records anything earlier than that. Okay, so how will I change this on the due minimum date? I'll set the date 1st January 2018. Okay, so I can also change from the data settings dialog. See what happens. Only 2018 records are visible. Anything before that is hidden. Clear?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
So this is how we create and use a variable in rapid response workbooks for for customized filtering. Okay.
So like, if the requirement, for example, this kind of customized requirement is for user specific, is it there any way rather than creating the filter in workbook or these variables in the workbook through alerts, can we send the file for the review? Is it feasible?
Didn't get you. Come again.
For example, the moment I will publish this here, it will be available for all the users, right? So
Correct.
if I want from specific one or particular one for one from one region, there is a query. They need to review all the DC forecast, which is the minimum date of 001/2018, for example. Okay, then
Mm-hmm.
the only feasible way is to through alert only I can export the data to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on
You
that
can
case,
use
in
these variables in alert.
sorry,
You can. You have the option to use variables in alert.
in alerts we can do that. Uh, so
Yes.
for all the users, they can see these workbook variables, but through alerts they can the specific users can get that.
Oh, okay. So you want the variables itself to be user specific.
Right.
There are other types of variables called profile variables. Okay, through which we can control this. That only the users which have this profile or which are this user group or which are this type can see this. Okay, so we do have that option. Okay,
Okay.
but not through this variable. There are different type of variables. We'll cover
Okay.
that in let's say uh, two sessions. Okay,
Okay.
but yeah, it is there.
Okay.
Next is action button. Action button is basically an extension of variables. Okay, sometimes you see these boolean buttons, right, where you see details. Okay, where you see hide and show, right? So action buttons, they actually define the value for variables. Okay, you can use an action button to create a shortcut, to use a shortcut value or for a variable for which you have defined. For example, the action button can include or exclude the forecast for the worksheet. Okay, include forecast or exclude forecast. You can also use action button to set the user's view for a preset view. For example, all forecast, all past value. Okay, or you can reset it to a initial state. So some initial state, some preferred state, or some predefined value you can do through uh, this action button. Okay, action button can include variables which are not available to users. So the variables which are not available to users can also be controlled through action button. Okay, even though the variables are not visible to users, then also can control those. Okay, now action buttons, they're always located on the workbook toolbar. Okay, they can be used only in the worksheet where the one or more variables from the workbook are aligned. Okay, these are not always available. They're only available where the action buttons are, where one or more of the variable are applied. You can create as many action buttons as you need on the workbook. However, best practice is to keep it low so that you don't run out of the space. Okay. In case you rename a variable, then it is automatically renamed in the action button. Okay. Let's go to next one. How can we specify the values on the action button? So action button basically, okay, let me show you with an example. So I'll not do that here. Okay, let's define an action button. Okay, what do we want to do using an action button? So see, for the forecast, we have a lot of values. For the dates, we have a lot of values, right? But there was a request coming that, boss, most of the time I'm interested in future forecast, which is greater than 2018, and order type is DC forecast, or order type is, let's say, forecast. Okay, uh, I'm interested in, maybe just a minute. Okay, let's put it that way. So most of the time I'm interested in this one, minimum 2018 forecast, or I'm interested in all with the past. So I need either the future forecast, or I need the total all order types and past values, which is a reset field, right?
Probably not clear. Please repeat.
Okay. So let's put it that way. One, I'm interested in future forecast. So demand type is demand plan, and the date is 1/1/2018. 1/1/2018. This I want to create a shortcut button for these values. Okay. And another one, I want to reset so that I can see all demand type and all dates. So I want two action button. Okay, how do I create it?
Variables.
So if you go to variables, new action button. So we are gonna create two action button. One is reset. This reset button will set the values of the two variables, right? Which variables? The
All and
value of the demand type will become all, and value of the minimum date will become past. This is my reset,
reset.
correct? But I also am interested in a shortcut for this, right? So shortcut button is future demand plan, right? By the way, variable names cannot contain spaces. Now the demand type is demand plan,
Demand.
right? And the date is 1/1/2018, right? Notice something,
Future demand plan reset. Power
right?
discount.
If I select this button reset, it will change the value of these two variables to all and past, correct? If I select this, and it will select 1/1/18 and demand plan. Clear so far? So these are called action buttons. They are quick Boolean buttons.
And this action button, can we uh, put it in a list format, or it is by default will come like this only, Praful?
Action buttons cannot be in a list format. List buttons are these ones. So in case you need to customize the view, you can go through these. But these are the just quick ones.
Quick one for that.
So let's say
Okay.
you have selected this here and this here, any blah 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 value. Okay, but you want to come back to the reset view. You can just quickly go here. Okay, so
Okay.
these are the shortcuts.
So it's
They will not come in the list view.
okay.
Okay, so these are the action buttons. With that, we finish this lesson. Okay, we have seen how do we create the variables. Now, you can also try using the, I suggest using, I mean, play with other variables types. Okay, just like we created list one, try with the quantity, text, okay, string variables and all that. So take a look. If not, let me know if you have any questions later on. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So next lesson we are going to talk about is the next lesson we are going to talk about is around the dependencies, reference worksheets, or the what are dependencies and what are reference worksheets. Okay. Okay. So to enhance the versatility of your resources, you would want to link them through dependencies. And to achieve the consistency and reduce the error, you want to see how we can reuse the worksheets which we have already created or used in the multiple workbooks. Okay. So in this lesson, you'll talk about the reference worksheets. What are reference worksheet and how do we use, how can we reuse the worksheets which have been uh, referenced and which have been complete, let's say, uh, which have been already available in the another workbook. Okay, those are called reference worksheets. Okay, what is the business story? The planners, they want to view the demand data and supply data at the same place. Okay, good. But the thing is, they are already using the demand summary workbook, which is too bulky. It has hidden worksheets, 33 conditionally hidden worksheets, and 10 visible worksheets. Means it is bulky. Means you cannot copy the worksheets. To meet their requirements while keeping the workbook orderly, you decide to use a reference composite worksheet. You do not want to add more hidden worksheets. You do not want to add more worksheets to that workbook. Okay. So instead, you decide to use the reference worksheet, reference composite worksheet from other workbook to this workbook. Okay. How we are going to do that? Let's take a look at that. Okay. So first, let's understand what is resource usage and dependencies. Okay. See, in rapid response, I might have talked about this in future, in parts. Okay. In rapid response, we have something called dependencies. Okay. Meaning one resource can be used by some other resource, and this resource is dependent on that other resource to function. Okay. So some resources might depend on other resources for their functionality. For example, dashboards, they're based on the workbooks. So for the dashboard to function, there must be a workbook or a worksheet which will basically have the data for that widget. Okay, and then widget will be used then later in the dashboard. Okay, so if you see here, for the dashboard to function, we need the widget. Sorry, widget to function, and widget then need the workbook to function properly. Okay, if you see the dependency chart, Dashboard depends on the this dashboard depends on this widget. This widget depends on this workbook and further these workbooks. Okay. So where can I see this information? You go to rapid response. Take any dashboard. So many dashboards. Right click and there's a resource usage. Okay. So if you see here, these dashboard depends on these widgets. So these are the 5, 6 widgets in the dashboard. This widget depends on this workbook to function, and this workbook depends on this workbook for the detail, drill to detail. Okay. So this is the dependency. Similarly, if you go into this widget, you can also identify which all dashboards are using this widget. One this and another is this. Okay, so why do we need to identify that? So if you or any user plans to make the changes to this widget or this dashboard, they would know where all I might find the impacts of this change, right?
Same case can be feasible in the workbook also, because suppose in a workbook or in particular worksheet I have,
Yes, for all
yeah,
resources that is the
all
same.
resources. Okay.
Okay, so for example, if you go to this workbook and maybe this workbook, let's say consistency demand workbook, or maybe I don't know. Let's say this part properties workbook maybe. Okay, if you go to resource usage, not the private one, maybe the public one, right? So let's take this resource usage. This workbook does not depend on anyone, but this workbook is used by these worksheets or this task flow or this alert.
So typically, if any request will come for the part proposal, you have to check this workbook will be used where, and if any not,
Correct,
then how to.
correct. If before making any changes, would it impact positively or negatively other workbooks? Okay, that we should check. We must check. Okay. Excuse me. Next. So, these resource usage dialog can help us understand where the dependency lies, whether this resource is dependent on which all other resource, or this resource is being used by other resources or not. Okay, we can view the resource usage and dependencies in the resource usage dialog box. Now, with the dependencies, you can link the workbooks to form or other workbooks as dependencies. These dependencies, they allow you to define the links between the resource or use the worksheet from other workbooks as well, right? Just like a dashboard. Dependencies, they help you create the simplified user experience. For example, if you click here, they will take you to this chart. If you click on this chart, they will take you to another workbook. So these dependencies, they help you create a kind of a smooth user experience, some transition. Okay, so that's the good thing about the dependencies. Now, some things to keep in mind for the dependencies. By the way, you can have multiple dependencies, meaning one chart can take you to multiple workbooks, or one workbook can also be linked to multiple worksheets or multiple drilling areas. Okay, so it's not one to one, it can be many to one relationship as well. Clear?
Clear.
If you
how
share
to
a
link,
workbook,
how to link and all this thing will cover later,
yes,
or
we'll see. Yeah,
we will see,
of
right?
course.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Okay,
that's the
yeah,
lesson about, right? How do
okay.
we create the dependency? We'll do the exercise. So, if you share a workbook that has dependent resources, the dependent resources will also be shared. But the thing is, they will not be available to use in the Explorer pane. You cannot directly see them in the Explorer pane. The dependent resources can only be accessed by clicking on the drill link in the workbook. Okay, so for example, you this chart allows you to taking to this workbook, SNOP, tree map, whatever it is, right? That does not mean the user will see this workbook in his Explorer. No, that means he will see this dashboard, and if he wants to come to this workbook, he can click on this chart only. Then only through this view he can come here. Okay, so that's what it is saying, that resources can be accessed only by clicking on the drill link of the worksheet to the workbook. You cannot uh, actually see the resources in your Explorer. Okay.
So apart from the widgets, for example, in planning sheet or most in planning sheet, whenever we are clicking any part, it will take us to the respective or relevant workbook or worksheet. It is also a part of this dependency and resource sheet, or
Yeah.
that is the
Yes,
same. Okay,
that is because of the drilling dependency. I will cover that in the next lesson. You will see that today.
okay.
Now, moving on to the next one. Any changes again?
Quiz. I have a question.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you mind give you an example regarding the dependence resource conflict? For example, you see sometimes we use multiple dependents, right? And then it happens the dependence resource conflict. Do you have very simple example like
Dependent resource
dependent resource conflict example?
conflict. Okay,
Conflict.
so it's basically it's not a conflict. It's, for example, right now this dashboard uses this widget, which is using in this workbook. Now some user came in and asked, okay, boss, I want you to add one more column to this workbook. Now, because you have added one workbook, the chart will change. The chart will change. The widget will change, and the widget might also impact the dashboard, which was used by 10 other users, but was not requested by those users. Okay. Now, because of the request of one user in this workbook, 10 other users are impacted. Now, is that impact uh, acceptable or not? That we need to communicate to 10 users. So that is what we are talking about, conflict. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So that is what it is saying, that changes might affect seemingly unrelated resources. So you might think the dashboard is not dependent on this workbook, but you cannot confirm until you see the resource usage. Okay. So while making the changes, make sure you are doing the regression testing as well. Okay. Second, when you are editing a public resource, make sure you have also checked out all the resources which are dependent on this. Okay, so that to avoid any resource conflict with other authors. Now, for example, you are making changes to this dashboard, okay, by creating widgets and everything. But someone else checked out this workbook itself, meaning they are planning some changes. Okay, so in that case, once the user checks in the resource, your uh, resource is in risk. Okay, so always make sure if you are making a changes to a public workbook, you will now see sorry, if you are making changes to public resource, uh, you also check out the dependent resources, right?
Just one more example on this.
Mhm.
Need one more example on this. Dependent resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, uh, let's say you're creating a widget on the logo, okay? But your company, the person himself, he's planning to change the logo in a different worksheet, okay? So what you're expecting in the dashboard might not look the same what currently it is in case it is checked out, right? So what it is asking that in case you're planning something, check out this as well so that others cannot change while you are working on it. Once you have done working, you can check in all the resources, and then when they change, it's their responsibility to ensure this works.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Now, workbook dependencies. What are the types of dependencies? So by default, there are three types of dependencies. One, drill link dependency, so drill to detail dependency, which is drill link dependency. Okay. In this dependency, this allows you to drill link to the workbooks, worksheets, or different resources. So it allows you to define the links from columns, variables, and workbook filters in one worksheet to a detailed records in another workbook, right? You will work with this type of dependency in the next lesson. So next lesson, we will see this. How do we create the drill links from one workbook to another workbook, all that, right? Second, we have the reference dependency. Reference dependency is the one where you want to reuse an existing worksheet from the source workbook in other workbook. Okay, so you have the worksheet already existing in the workbook, but you want to reuse the same worksheet or you want to reuse the uh, same worksheet, yes, in other workbooks so that you don't need to author it again. Okay, that is done using reference dependency. The reference dependency is like mirror image dependency. Okay, you have an object somewhere and you want to create a mirror image of it in other workbook without actually rebuilding the workbook. Correct? That's called reference dependency. Okay. In this session, we are going to talk about the reference dependency. Okay, adding a reference.
So, Praful, typically whenever we are copying, for example, I am creating a workbook and I am copying the for worksheet. I am copying from another workbook, the existing. Then it will come under this reference dependency or something else.
Didn't get you come again.
For example, there are two worksheets in a workbook A. I am creating a new workbook B where I am
Mm-hmm,
using the worksheet one, which is already existing, without
mm-hmm.
creating a new. It will come under reference dependency or something else,
Yes, you can do it by reference dependency. One option is you copy the worksheet.
right?
Okay. Another option is instead of copying, you create a reference with the two worksheet. Okay, you connect the old workbook with the dependency, and then you can create a reference worksheet. I'll show you how to do it.
Okay. Thanks.
Next is library dependency. So library dependency allows you to use any worksheet from the library workbook. So it allows you to reuse any worksheet from the library workbook. So just like we have the reference dependency, in reference dependency, you can copy the worksheet or see the worksheet. In library dependency, don't even need to copy the worksheet. You can use the worksheet for creating composite worksheets or any further worksheets. Okay. Again, this also we'll see an example, but in this lesson we will focus on reference dependency. So let's talk about this one majorly. Okay. So how do we add a dependency to the workbook? Reference dependency or any dependency to the workbook. So for adding any dependencies are added at a workbook level. so that any worksheet can access that workbook dependency. Okay, let's understand what is the task here. To make the data viewable from the demand summary workbook, you first need to link the workbook that displays the demand and supply data. Okay, now you want to copy the demand summary workbook. Okay, and in that you want to link it to the supply worksheet. If you go to the workbook properties, there's a workbook called supply, right? Supply summary. Okay, so here you have a list of planned orders. Okay, you want to see these planned orders again, and this is a different example, taking a different example. So you want to see this planned order worksheet in the demand summary workbook. Okay, let's go back. We were doing that demand summary. Okay, first let's discard the checkout. Okay, I'm gonna delete the existing one, create a copy. Now in this copy, if you see the usage, okay, not this copy. Let's directly go into the usage, resource usage. Do you see any dependencies?
No.
No, right? Right now it's not connected. But if I need to add the dependency because I want to see the worksheet data from the supply summary worksheet, right? So there's this supply summary.
Below.
Okay, you see the supply summary, this worksheet and the supply summary. Because I need to get the data from this worksheet there. So I need to first add a dependency in the demand summary workbook, right? In the property, or you can go to open and then go to properties. Then go to dependencies. Right now, none. Add which type of dependency? Workbook dependency. right?
No,
Now,
that's not.
in the workbook dependency, what type of dependency we are talking about?
Reference.
Reference, right? So let's add a reference dependency. Okay. To which workbook I want the reference to be created?
Supply summary.
Supply summary, right? Type the name of the workbook. Apply. Oh, okay.
By typing also the name will pop up, no?
Yes. Now, the thing is, supply summary is based on the different table than the this workbook. Okay. So supply
Okay.
summary may not be compatible with this one. Okay. How? Let's check that. What is the filtering table here?
Part table.
Part table. Let's go to supply summary. No, this one, right? Supply
Below,
summary.
below. Supply
This one,
waterfall
right?
upper set.
See, what is the properties for this work? In the workbook properties, you can see what is the filtering table for this?
Part
Part source,
source. Okay.
right? Means they are not compatible together.
Compatible to
You cannot use them in the same workbook.
yeah.
Okay. So in that case, I'll need to find the
Scroll and
workbook
find out here.
which has the same filter, or you have to change it here. Okay, both will work. For me,
The
I would rather
yeah,
find a
Praful,
workbook. Mhm.
the filter has to be the same for being compatible.
Filtering table has to be the same, not
Table has to
filter.
be the same. Yeah.
Filtering table, yeah. Okay. In this case, since this will not work, let me check if I can get the data from, let's say, supply order analysis workbook or supply management. First, let's confirm the filtering workbook, same as part, but this will work. Let's create the copy or this dependency on this workbook. Okay, so let's go to supply order demand summary properties. The dependencies. Add new reference workbook dependency. Reference workbook. And now the workbook is supply. That is supply analysis work. Okay. Now once I created the reference dependency, how to create a reference worksheet. Okay. Anyways, first let's check it whether the dependency has been created or not. Select OK. Look at the workbook resource usage. Now do you see the dependency? Reference workbook dependency.
And here all the worksheet will be showing because since we have racked to all the entire workbook.
Right.
Supply. Okay.
Now what is next? How do we use this reference dependency? this we can create a dependency by reusing the worksheet in the source object workbook. So this is my source workbook. This supply summary, this supply analysis. This one are my worksheet, the destination, right? Demand summary or XYZ workbook. So if the worksheet exists here with the reference summary, you can create the images of that worksheet, Xerox of this worksheets, without actually recreating the workbook.
So
Now, what's the benefit?
demand
We
summary
can
is the
also
main
copy the
workbook, right,
worksheet.
Prafulla?
Sorry.
Demand summary is the main workbook and supply is the reference one, right?
Demand is the sorry, supply is the main workbook where we have the worksheet, and we want to use
Okay,
that worksheet in other workbooks and demand summary, for example,
okay.
right? So main worksheet is this supply analysis workbook. Okay. Now, yeah. So if you want to create a reference worksheet, so we must have the original workbook, and we can use that worksheet in any other workbook. Now you would ask why not copy? Why not copy the worksheets, right? Well, copying is not an option because with copying, we are actually creating a independent copy. With reference, however, we can use the existing copies of the workbook. And if someone asks me to make a change here, I don't need to make the changes here and here. I can only be done by making the changes here. Okay. The reference worksheets, they allow you to make the change at one place and basically see them at multiple places. So they will be interlinked. You don't need to um, rework your changes.
And also
Okay.
contribute to space utilization, right? Unnecessary, you have to create a space. Matlab, for worksheet, you can use the reference so that same resource can be used multiple times.
Correct. So reference worksheet, it provides an enhanced way to reuse the resources, which promotes a consistency for users and reduce the potential risk. When the source worksheet, so this one is added as a workbook dependency, any visible worksheet which is not reference worksheet from another workbook can also be used as a reference worksheet, meaning you can take the copy of the original. You cannot take copies of copies. So if there is a worksheet which in itself is a reference worksheet, okay, that one you cannot use for creating a copies. Means if you add this as a dependency, you'll not be able to take this pink copy as a original. Okay, is it clear? You cannot make copies of the copies. Now, reference worksheets are maintained in the source workbook. So if any changes needs to be done, they will always be done in the source workbook. So any changes made will automatically update in all location where the worksheet is used as a reference worksheet. Okay. How do we add a reference worksheet? Now let's add as a reference worksheet. So in this supply some this supply analysis workbook, right? Which we added as a dependency supply order analysis. Let's say I want to see this information. Hmm. I want to see the same worksheet all orders. Okay. So I want to see the same worksheet from here to here. Sorry, supply order analysis to demand summary.
Demand summary.
So my demand summary, this one, let's open this first. So now you can go to the workbook properties in the worksheets tab, new, and this time we'll create a reference worksheet. All orders you want to copy. See this with an arrow, so this is a reference worksheet. Okay, and now even though you don't have a component worksheet and everything ABC XYZ, see here, you'll see exactly the same view, same as this one, right?
And Buffalo, we can do any modification in this worksheet. In demand summary, all orders worksheet, we can suppose some new additional information or expressions that we want additional columns, we can do that, right? In this workbook, demand summary workbook, even though it is a reference worksheet.
Come again.
In demand summary workbook, all orders suppose I need additional two columns where it will give me a trigger. For example, all the, for example,
No,
I have
you
created
cannot.
an,
You
we
cannot.
can.
So if you go into the worksheet property, do you have the option to make the changes? Nothing, right?
Okay.
No column
It is
properties,
only for
nothing.
the view purpose for the
Yep.
reference.
You
Okay.
can go to this worksheet, this workbook, make the changes there,
All the sources
and
we
it
have
will
to do.
equate it. Yeah.
Okay. And also during the expression calculation, during the expression builder, we can't use this all order worksheet also. For any, we have to use the source one only. All orders from the source, not from the demand summary.
Yes, everything will be from
Yeah.
the source.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's how we added reference worksheet to the workbook. Was short lesson around dependencies, but any questions in this one so far? How do we create the dependency, reference dependency, and how do we create a reference worksheet? Okay. Okay, in case you don't have a question, then maybe let's take a quick 5 minute and we'll be back in 7:30. Okay, let's take a quick 5 minutes time out. Are we good to continue? Are you back?
Yeah, yeah, back.
Let's continue. So, now next, what we want to do is we want to create a drill link to the relay. Okay, we want to drill to detailed dependency. Okay, another type of dependency. So, you want to create a drill link to the worksheet so that the users they can view a more detailed breakdown of the summary data. Okay, now for creating a drill link, what is the dependency required? Okay, is it required or not? And how do we create a drill link? That all we will cover in this lesson. Okay, so what is the overview? You will learn how to create the drill link between the worksheets. What drill links does? They allow worksheet to drill to more related data by clicking on the worksheet, data values, or column headers. Now, what is the business story? You have been asked to streamline and focus on the workbook that display the forecast and order data. Specifically, you want to organize the workbooks by adding the drill links to the detail worksheet. Okay. Now, what is a drill link? So, for example, we go to demand workbook. Not only demand workbook, you can actually go to part properties workbook or other workbooks as well. But anyways, it's asking to let's check. Okay. Let's go to demand workbook. Do we have the demand? Okay, we don't have the demand workbook here. Okay.
Demand summary worksheet is that okay?
Let me go take you to the forecast analysis workbook. So let's open this one. Okay, you see these drill links? If you click on those drill links on the bottom, right, the numbers change. Correct? So these are called drill links. Okay, so drill links basically you can add the drill links to the worksheet, which provide the users with the ability to drill down to the more detailed records associated with the data values in the summary worksheet. In the summary worksheet, you have these drill links which take you to the detailed records. Okay, by defining a drill link to the detail, so if you define a drill link to the detail, you can actually define a set of columns which are used to filter the detailed worksheet. So if I ask you that what is this 450? How is that 450 quantity coming up here? So you can say that boss for if I go in this bottom worksheet, put a filter on this part, this side, and this date, the quantity would come up here. Okay. So drilling is nothing, just a set of filtering condition on the details worksheet. Correct?
And it is not applicable only for the same workbook. For example,
It can be same workbook or it can be other workbook. In
other work.
case it is other workbook outside the same workbook, then you will have to create a dependency, right? So if, for example, if it is, if it, I mean, consider it like your family, right? If the members are in your same family, okay, in case you can directly go talk to them, you don't need the permission. But in case they are from other family, they live in a different house, you'll first need to ring the bell, get the permission, and then only you can go meet or talk to them, right? Same thing. So in case the workbooks are in the if in case the drill links are in the same workbook, you can use the you'll use that you don't need to create a dependency. But in case they are in a different workbook, you'll have to create a dependency first before you plan to use them. Okay?
Clear.
I have a question, teacher.
Yeah.
So my question is, so now you see this screenshot here. Just for example, so on the top you see the 450, and when the user click the quantity, right? Normally they will list down how this 450 sum up by, for example, this is by date, like the due date, the coming in arrival date, whatever, right? That is the sum to the 450. Uh, can I can I edit the review, and no need to show the bottom sheet. When I click 450, they will automatically link with the other worksheet, which is this worksheet, but they show on different in the new windows. So this is allowed us to edit how the review, how the look like the review of the page. So for this one, you see the 450, and the downside there's a list by day, and then the number, the quantity sum up will equals to the 450, right? But what if I don't want to show in one page? I want to show in one new window page. If I click the 450 linked with the same sheet, the worksheet, can we design those, the review, the
So
view?
in case the worksheet is in the same workbook, then it will open in the same page. If
Correct.
it is in the different workbook, then it will open in a different window. Okay. You cannot choose in same page or different page if it is in the same workbook. It,
I'm not saying I didn't say the different worksheet. I wanted to express is, can I design this view version? For example, I don't want to show the this worksheet in the under here, under downside. I wanted to click the quantity, and then they can open the worksheet on the new tag, the new rapid responder tag. Um, is there any possible I can design this review like a view page?
yeah, you can do that.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay. Now you can use this link to go to grouped columns. In the cross-tab worksheet also, you can use these drill links. Charts and tree maps, of course, allows you to move the drill links. And then widgets based on the worksheets also access the drill links, also provide the access to the drill links. Okay. You can also create the drill link to open a form to pass the values from one worksheet to another. Okay, let's create a drill link and see the examples. Okay. Now, while defining a drill link, there are two options. You can define the drill link at the cell level, like right. So here you have the drill link at a cell level, or you can define the drill link at a header level. What is the difference? Yeah. By the way, when we talk about drill link, you can create from one cell, you can create a link to multiple places, or one worksheet can also be used by multiple uh, this as well. Okay, meaning you can come to this workbook from multiple workbooks, or you can go to multiple workbook from this drill link. Okay, it is many to many relationship. Okay, that's what it is saying. You can have multiple drill link to the same details worksheet or form, and you can also define the multiple drill links from the same data column, many to many. Okay, same is for charts. So from the charts also you can drill to another worksheet. Now, in case the data you want to drill to is in a different workbook, you must first define a dependency with a drill to detail dependency. Okay, so for example, if I want to go from forecast summary to forecast detail, which are two different workbook, you will first have to define a drill to detail summary as a drill to detail dependency. How do we add the dependency? Is the same thing. So for example, if you want to move from forecast summary to forecast details, so to create a drill link, you'll first go to forecast summary worksheet. Okay, go to properties and in the dependencies. Okay, let me remove it for a moment. So add workbook. This time we will use drill to detail dependency. Okay, which workbook? Supply this forecast details. Correct. So this is how we create a drill to detail dependency. This one. Okay, and now I can create a drill link. So for example, if I go to forecast summary now, let me do one thing. I'll delete this and start fresh. Copy workbook. Okay, so now we add the dependency, go to workbook properties. Add a workbook dependency. Okay, now you have the option. One, you can create a drill link at the cell level, or you can create the drill link at a header level, this quantity. Let's say if I want to create a drill link at the cell level, okay, if I ask you how to identify the records which have this quantity, which are adding up to 30,000, this 3,000, what all filters do I need to apply? So I should provide the name, site, and this bucket, August. Then only I can reach this 30,000, right? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now if I want to create a drill link at a detail level, I need all the group by columns as drill link. If you look at this worksheet, what are the group by columns for this worksheet? Start, site, and due date. So what it is saying is, in case you want drilling at a cell level, all the group by column should be mapped. Okay. So to set up drill link in a cross tab, last group by column should be mapped. When you say last, means all the group by along with the last group by should be mapped. Okay. So now how do we create drill link? Right click, column properties. Go to drilling tab. Okay, then you have the drilling tab. Now new and drill to worksheet. Now, do we have the worksheet in the same workbook or in a different workbook? Different workbook. Now, because we have the wrong workbook as a dependency. First, let me correct the dependency. The workbook name we said was uh, forecast detail, right? This one was the workbook. Go to worksheet, forecast, in the quantity column, we were adding the drill link, new drill link. drill to worksheet. And the worksheet is in a different workbook. Which workbook? This workbook, this worksheet. Okay. Now you need to pass this part name, part site, and date, right? So map that this part name from my this worksheet would be the part column of the details worksheet. Site column would be site. And what is the third thing? Due date would be due date. Now what would happen when I do this? All of these will change to hyperlink. And now when you click on this 3000, it will open forecast detail with those dates with the same part and same site, and the sum will add up to 3000. Correct? Is it clear so far?
Yes.
Yep.
Now, instead of the cell, if you want to create a drill link at a quantity level, at a header level, this quantity, let's say, how would I do this? Let's say I want to create a drill link from this worksheet to this worksheet. Now they are in the same workbook. Do I need a dependency now? No, right? Because they're in the same workbook. Second, if I need to create a uh, drill link here instead of these here, what all information do I need? Only the part inside. I don't need the date, right? So I can say the last group by column can be unmapped in the drill link mapping. Okay, so let's go to column properties again. New drill to worksheet. Sorry, the column is quantity column. New drill to worksheet. Same workbook, but this worksheet on time orders. Now, mapping the variable. Part name should be mapped to part name. Part site should be mapped to site column, right? Do we need to map any other columns?
No.
No, because we said the last group by column should be unmapped here. Okay. Now, if you click here, for example, you'll see the records there. Okay. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. But Praful, for example, in forecast, the quantity is there. Just to check in forecast worksheet.
In forecast, the quantity is not there
No, the,
because it is only one column, quantity by due date.
for
So there we
example,
have quantity and due date both in the same column.
no, my question is in all auto worksheet. If I want to drill down quantity with two worksheet, then the same process I have to add, right?
Correct.
Suppose okay. So that when we will click over there, the two worksheet will be shown. Then I can go to any worksheet based on the requirement.
Correct.
Okay.
Teacher, I have one question.
Mhm.
So from this training, you showed us a lot of preloaded worksheet, right? For example, supply summary, demand summary. So those are the purpose for us understand the training demos, right? But if we're working on some of project, right, they may have different worksheet name. It's very depending on the worksheet or data that we imported from the ERP system, right? By different company have a different the data the name, the worksheet name. But for this one, if we wanted to practice by our own after training course, and then we read the PDF, right? They have some guidance said, oh, please open demand summary worksheet or something. Those are just for learning and a demo
Correct.
practice, right? But
Correct.
the other company, the other project, maybe it's different worksheet. but maybe similar. The principles, how we use those are learning as similar, right? So those
Right.
is just for demo. Okay, got it. Thanks.
That's right. Okay. So any questions in creating the drill links?
No problem.
Oh, I have last question. Sorry.
Go on.
Um, yes. So for drilling data, we can see, right? You can see the blue color. That is like a hyperlink, right? In order to
Correct.
linked with other worksheet. And those worksheet actually is already formatted on rapid respond. But the main original resource is from, like you said, from the ERP system or other we call the cloud-based May data resource, right? But my question is, uh, if we show the independent forecast, we call the finished goods level, and then is there any possible? I clicked this finished goods level, the name, and then this product information can be associated with the ERP system, or only can drill data, the drill link, only linked with rapid response, the formatted spreadsheet, right? Not the master data resource, correct? So for example, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics 365, we all have the product information data called master product data, right? And then including the product description, product name, product dimension, those different type of the parameters, right? And so the drilling data on rapid respond, for example, like a forecast, and then can I can I look at more deeper about this product details information by linked with the master data on the ERP or SAP product master data table resource? My question is, or only can link between the worksheet on rapid response only, correct?
You can only see in rapid response worksheet. You cannot go to your ERP system from this drill link.
But
Got
if
it.
the ERP data is inputted to Carer as a table, then we can access the master data, right, Prabhu?
Yeah, but again, that would be the rapid response worksheet view only.
Only
Okay.
response.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, thanks. I
Okay.
understand. So more the most of hybriding for purpose is for planning because the rapid response is for planning. So most the drilling data is associated on the worksheet on the rapid response in order they can look at more deeper regarding how we planning, how we configure it, right? It's not really a lot of people use the rapid response, check this product description, check this product dimension,
No,
because
not like
yeah,
that.
okay, yeah, yes, okay, got it, yeah.
Okay, so with that, we finished the drill link in rapid response. Okay. Now, I also just want to show you quickly. You can also add a dependency to form. Okay, so if you go to workbook properties, it's not always workbooks. Sometimes you can also invoke the forms. So on the dependencies, add form dependency, and you can choose any form. For example, uh, scenario response form. Okay, and then from that form, you can also create the drill links as well. So for example, right now this does not have access to the form. But if you go into the column properties and add a drill link, right? New form, you can actually use this form. And while mapping the variables, so for example, if you want to map the variables, so I want my line item to be mapped to my uh, subject, let's say message subject, okay? And again, I'm just maybe just doing something random. So this is my subject, order ID is my subject, line number is my message. Okay. So what it's gonna do is automatically pass the value from the worksheet to the form. Okay. Let's take a look. You see drill to form. And now if you'll notice, so subject is directly the line and the site ID, sorry, the order ID, and the line will become the message. Okay. Because I clicked on this drill link. If I click on this drill link, then sub message will become 3. Okay. So that's how you can also act as add as a form in the add a form into drill links. Okay.
But roughly forms we are covering in chapter 2
So it's just drilling to the form,
only dealing.
not exactly building form.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions so far?
No problem.
Okay, then I think we can take pause here and practice these ones. Okay, authoring 2 is important and interesting. So you would see it much more. I mean, you would be asked to do this very frequently in your job role if related to Kinexis. Okay, practice.
Yeah.
Let me know in case you have any questions later on.
Sure, Prof. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Prof.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you.
bye.